Robert Downey Jr. So I went to UCLA, and I had was a film person and really obsessed with film and television and really into that, and have been for most of my life. So I would volunteer at film events that they would host, and be able to go in early and sometimes meet people. And so they're a really cool series at UCLA Film and Television kind of archives, and via the film department at UCLA, which was called like Movies That Inspired Me. And it was a series of films that were kind of curated at one point by some really cool directors. Um, I think like Curtis Hanson, director of LA Confidential, really fantastic director, had curated some of it, and some other folks had come and spoke about movies that inspired them. And so one person who came and spoke was Robert Downey Jr. And he did came for a screening of Chaplin. And Chaplin had been out for just a couple of years, and this is long before Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man, but it was just a short time after he'd been released from jail. So, at that time, I was a UCLA college student. It was the late 90s. I was more familiar with drugs than I am today, in the sense that they were really free flowing at UCLA as far as cocaine and like shrooms and crystal and all these different type of drugs that are kind of maybe a little bit more expensive. You would see people engaging in that on the weekends or during breaks or things like that, and much more than I had seen growing up in San Luis Obispo, in my small town and stuff. So I was not surprised when Robert Downey Jr. asked me and my college friends for some Coke. And we brought back a can of Coca Cola, hoping against hope that that's what he was talking about. But he was like, "This is not what I meant." And we are like, "Fuck you." We were so pissed. And I just like looked at him and I was like, "I want better from you." Like I did the whole thing. I was like, "You give me more than this." And I told him, I was like, "I tried to write you when you were in jail. Like you're one of my heroes. Like I really like don't want to give you that. I want to give you this can of Coca Cola." And then we also found some gum. So he was like, "Well, at least I'll take the gum." We're like, "All right." So he took the gum and he was like, "All right, I hear you kids." Because we were like, "We really want," and he was like, "Wow, like UCLA kids are giving me talking to." So we're like, "Yeah, we're kind of like, we're telling you that like you are better than this. Like you don't have to, and I saw that. I just saw this, like this thing that it's just like, and I was thinking, like, gosh, because there were so many kind of other people of Robert Downey Jr.'s age at his time during the 80s. He was a member of they kind of called it the Brat Pack. They talked a little bit about different type of actors of his age group, and so there's quite a few of them competing. But he was somebody who, to me, who kind of always stood out as something different, as something that anytime you saw him on screen, you really wanted to see more of him. You wanted to spend time with him. You wanted him to talk to you. You liked him. And so seeing him at this event and having been such a big fan of Chaplin, and then seeing him kind of still be struggling, I really wanted to push him to reconsider, and not the struggle so much, but I was like, go to freaking meetings. Like, I told him, I was like, I have gone, like, because I had, gone to AA and sought support because I felt like I had been drinking, to try to dull my memories or get rid of them. And I had, and so going to AA was helpful. The people there were like, "We don't think you're an alcoholic. Probably stop drinking." And I was like, "All right." And I did. And I found other, things that helped me that were far more manageable, much more safer, um, versus, being blitzed out of my mind, because I couldn't stop remembering every single thing that ever happened to me. Right. So it's one of those things that, I am often excited by people who keep on showing up and keep on trying and keep on striving. And it's been so lovely to hear that Robert Downey Jr. May have supported folks in their sobriety journeys and has helped pay for rehabs, and it just makes me feel so excited that there are people like that live in this world. And I really need to watch Doolittle and a whole bunch of other stuff he's released because I'm behind. So I get together. Um, I'm gonna make Storm watch it. He didn't really want to watch it. He was like, Doolittle, well, it's not my thing. And I was like, I know, but it could be awesome. So, but I thought, wow, what a cool person who, had to ask me for Coke, right? And I mean, we might have been able to, I mean, we kind of maybe talked about getting him the Coke because we could have gotten him Coke, right? We knew people, but we didn't want to get him Coke. Like, and I was like, do you want us to be the people who did this too, right? And so it's been really great to see him become this person like Iron Man. And I haven't told my kid this story, and I probably won't for some time because, who really wants to talk to your kids about drug use except for how to think really carefully and thoughtfully about that so you don't end up having to apologize to so many people, having to come back from so much stuff, from really hurting folks, from being off your rocker. And I have a lot of empathy for people who have struggled with abuse because it's not easy. But I think to myself, like, if this guy, who could have been enabled through everything, really found a way to avoid it, and not just avoid it, but help other people avoid it in his world of, wealth and access and all these things, I think that means that almost anybody could, reach sobriety or help a friend or a family member reach sobriety too. And of course it can take many times and many attempts, but, and I can't promise you I'm always going to be wanting to do it, but I definitely am glad at times that I spoke up and said something once in a while.